I'm about ready to release a book this year. It's called The Pursuit of Legendary Fatherhood, and it's broken up into 4 parts. And one of the parts is creating what we call an extraordinary marriage, creating a legendary marriage. And I actually wrote that book last year. It was supposed to be launched back in September of 2022, but the publishing company that I inked a contract with went bankrupt. And
Good times.
I found that out 6 weeks before we were supposed to launch. Thank God I found out before that. And the publisher basically said, hey, I can either sign the rights back over to your book or I can help you self-publish. I was like, just give me the book back. And so now we're shopping the big publishers. So, but I say that because a lot has evolved and changed since the book, The Dad Edge. There's a lot more in depth and in the trenches. But let me first start out with just some statistics, just a level set. Everyone knows that in the United States, the divorce rate is 50 to 51%, give or take right now. What a lot of people don't know are the statistics of the marriages that stay together. This is scary. So the 50% that stay together are actually divided up into 3 camps pretty darn equally. I don't know like how equally, but pretty darn close. So 33%, just take it for 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. 1/3 of couples that stay married and stay together can actually identify their relationship as working. Like, hey, this is great. I love it. My wife and I are in that camp. I love it. I wouldn't really change much. We're communicating. Our intimacy is on point. Our sex life is on point. Our parenting is on point. Everything is feeling pretty darn good, right? And I'm not going anywhere. Love this woman. Love this man, period. The second camp, the next 1/3 is like, it's okay. It's like, it's not everything I thought it would be. I don't really want to go anywhere. I love her. She loves me. I think, we talk more high level managerial things. Maybe our physical relationship isn't the best, but it's okay. Like we're kind of buddies, right? And we hang out. Then the last camp is complete and total disconnect. They are living totally different lives, individual lives. Usually there's quote unquote extracurricular activities happening. And they're just waiting for the kids to move out before they get divorced. And the top 2 reasons that couple doesn't get divorced is either financially it'd be too devastating, or the one that I kind of laugh at now is we got to stay together for the kids. That's great. Give your kids a front row seat to a dysfunctional relationship. That's exactly what every kid needs, right? So the first camp, there's common denominators in that first camp. The common denominators are this, and this is what they've studied. John Gottman has even studied this, is that couples that are successful understand that there's more to it than love. That's a foundational element, but they also know, like, in order for me to operate well within this marriage, I need to constantly be growing. I need to constantly learning. I need to constantly be refining my skills. You've got to be a fantastic communicator. And in order to be a fantastic communicator, you got to learn how to be a better communicator. You have to learn how to pull your weight, as a husband. She has to learn how to pull her weight as a wife, right? We have to learn how to specifically and strategically love that other person. What a lot of us do is we love the other person in the way we need to feel loved, right? So if you're a guy that loves physical touch and compliments, it's probably how you're going to love on your wife by default. Well, what if that's not how she receives love? What if she receives love by acts of service and quality time with you, undistracted quality time? But you don't know that. And it usually shows up in like, she just doesn't understand me. He just doesn't get me. Right? We just don't feel connected. So people that stay in love, people that are connected are growing together, learning new skills together, and they're constantly sharpening, and they know it's going to be work, but they're overall they're fulfilled. So as it relates to Jessica and I, right? I know very specifically how to love Jessica, and it's not how I receive love. We actually are just fresh off of the she and I took the love language test, retook it just 2 nights ago. And so
a retake. How many years has it been?
Gosh, man, probably 7.
Okay.
At the
least. Just
curious. Yeah. And mine have kind of tweaked a little bit, and so have hers. But I will tell you, physical touch is 40% of how I receive love. For Jessica, it's 7. 7, right? So like all this touchy-feely stuff that I like, hug me, kiss me, like let's have sex, right? That's 7%. Now I will tell you, like, our sex life is extremely healthy. Like we have sex a lot. However, it's because I know how to love that woman in her love languages, which is acts of service, quality time, right? And very specific ones. So I'll tell you that in order for you to be successful in your marriage, number one, you have to know how the other person receives love. You also have to be very clear and communicate, how do you receive love, right? So Jessica knows how to turn my dials and I know how to turn hers, which is great. The other thing too is I think it's really important to have a shared vision that's based around your core values as a married couple. What is the vision of your marriage? Not what happens while we're married, because a lot of people are, management by crisis, and we manage things as they come in. But what is the vision that you're chasing as a married couple that is intertwined into your core values? So that's another one. I'll share a couple things with you that I think are most meaningful to Jessica and I. Jessica and I went through an exercise that we take all of our mastermind guys through, and that's called defining your core values. And a lot of people are like, well, what's core values? It's actually 150 different core values. And every human being on the planet operates within 5 to 7 core values. Now, a couple of different core values are like community, service, environment, connection. These types of things are core values, right? Vitality is one as well. So this is how core values usually show up for people, though. Core values are under the surface. It's more intuitional intelligence. It more shows up as, I don't know what it is about this, but it doesn't feel right. Or I don't know what it is about this, but it feels really good to me. That's how core values really emerge, unless you go through an exercise like what we do in the Dad Edge, which is defining your core values, which you actually go through an exercise and you learn them. So what Jessica and I do, and we encourage our guys to do this as well, is go through that process individually, identify your 5 to 7 core values as an individual, and then come together as a married couple and compare your 5 to 7 core values as an individual and be like, hey, how do we merge these together and what are most meaningful? Jessica and I have gone through this. So the interesting thing about our relationship and our individual core values is 4 out of 7 of them were pretty much aligned. So we're like, wow, well, gosh, no wonder we kind of work pretty well together from just an underlying operational standpoint. But, like one of the shared values in our relationship is experiences over stuff. So we don't accumulate nice cars. We don't accumulate designer clothes. We spend our time, our resources, our energy on experiences and adventure as a family, right? And that's a shared vision for our relationship. A lot of couples they don't even know that might be something that they do. That's just one element of several. I won't get into really much more, but when it comes to that, but if once you have a shared vision for your marriage and a way you operate, does that raise intimacy? Oh my gosh, does it ever, right? Because you feel insanely aligned. One other aspect is your shared vision for parenting. One of the top 5 fights that married couples have is parenting. And I think a lot of it could be avoided if you simply sit down and really understand, what is the vision for us as parents? What are we trying to accomplish and achieve here? Versus, we're 2 different people operating off 2 different past experiences of how we were raised. And a lot of times what people do is they make 2 different choices when they're a parent. I'm either going to repeat the things that were done to me when I was being raised, or I'm not going to do them. Right. And that's kind of the filter we run parenting through. It's really, really important, though, really important for you to sit down with your wife and to say, what are the things we want to do? What are most meaningful, and what are the bear traps that we don't want to repeat, and to make sure that you're operating within that alignment. I'll give you one quick example and then we can move on. One of the things that Jessica and I have always agreed on, and this is something that I think a lot of marriages fall in a pitfall of, is we will never disagree with the other person as it relates to a parenting decision in front of the kids. So if Jessica lays down, a disciplinary action, puts a kid in timeout because they did X, Y, and Z, and if I don't agree with it, our agreement is I don't call her out on that, and she doesn't call it out on me. I can't even tell you how many times I made a parenting decision and I looked over at her and I could tell she was like, not so sure I'm on board with that one. But our agreement is I got your back no matter what. And if I disagree with you, I'm going to tell you in private. away from the kids, because the kids will sense that divide and they will use that, right? Not intentionally or maliciously. They're just kids, but that's how they will use it. So, if I lay down a disciplinary action, she doesn't agree, she'll back me and be like, that's what dad said, and I'm on board. So go do that or not do that or whatever. And then in private, she'll be like, hey, you laid down that thing, you made that decision. I really wasn't on board with that, and here's why. And I want to talk about that. So like, just in the future, if this comes up again, maybe we should think differently about it, and vice versa. So that's just one of several, but you got to be on board with that one too.
Yeah, there's so many good nuggets in there. We covered a multitude of things. Number one, the 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman, which is an absolute classic. And what's funny is, before we went on that first ROM weekend or week to the Caribbean that we went on, we played that on the way on CD. This is how long ago it was. I bought it on CD because when we bought our first house, the couple we bought it from, they were remarried, and they handed us the book and they said, we want to give you this book. It's literally made our lives so much better. It changed our marriage, and we wish we would have had it for our first marriage, because we probably wouldn't have been divorced. But today it's helped us, and we put that in the drawer next to the bed. We never opened it up. And then, a couple months in with the less easy baby, the second one, and the challenge, I pulled the book out. I started reading the book, and then I knew that I needed to play it on CD, and we drove to a wedding. The baby cried the entire time in the back. It was up about 3 or 4 hour drive, and we listened to that book, and it was helping to establish, that, yeah, shocking physical touch is really important to most men, but especially some men. So I still to this day, like, put my arm around my sister and like grab her, squeeze her neck, and like do things. And she's like, I hate that, Scott. Why do you do this to me every time? And I'm just doing it because it's how I show love. It's how my dad often showed me love. And so my oldest son, by the way, is absolutely the same way. Like, anytime he needs to feel loved, we just have to wrestle. I got to go up. I got to mess with him a little bit. We got to, get on the ground and go at it. And he feels full. My youngest son, man, I touch him and he's like, all right, dad, I'm good, man. I'm good. But he loves that quality time, and he actually loves gifts, which is like one of the biggest challenges when you in any type of relationship. But the point I was going to get at is, I love the point of just getting on the same page, and I love that that's a crucial point. I also love identifying the values. See, when you're getting your core values aligned, that's so important. I always felt blessed and lucky that my wife and I kind of grew up in similar backgrounds. Both of us had parents that are still together, and they bicker and they do what everybody does as they age. And nobody's perfect, but what a great example in a life that we had, where we both had our parents that still love each other to this day, that are both alive. And that example has helped us have a core family. And we kind of grew up, and as we grew together. And that's something that's been very valuable. And it's the core values that I think are very similar.